Unshelling Medicine Podcast. Healthcare in the language we understand.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode. I have the pleasure of having Dr. Fajembola with us. Dr. Fajembola is a scientist, and she's a pioneer in starting research in the global south. I'll let her talk more about that. She's so dynamic. She's done so many things. When I met her initially before we're recording today, I got to know her work, and I would like for her to share her work with everybody. Even before we started recording, I asked for one to highlight. It was such tasking thing to come up with one. I'm very pleased to have Dr. Fajembola with us. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. I'm fine. And thanks so much for the kind introduction.
Thank you, thank you. So, Dr. Fajembola, when people hear science and research and what right now in the United States, I wouldn't say the Western world, there's a lot of scrutiny that area of science is going through right now. And given your global work, how is that looking on a global scale? Is it slowing down? Is it moving at a steady pace, or is it picking up?
Thank you so much. Really, research has been since time immemorial and will keep advancing because science keeps evolving. But the global north, especially the United States, has been the leader, the torchbearer in terms of research. And like the common thing, whenever the United States coughs or sneezes, it affects the rest of the world because United States actually is the lead funding global health, global scientific research. So the US has contributed to the advancement of research globally, but it has a lot of politics to do with it. Politics at state level, politics at national level, politics at organizational level. Because sometimes you even get to the funding, and those researchers who are in these institutions are not really getting the money. But currently, in recent years, and most especially in recent months, focusing on 2025, there has been a drastic reduction in research, which has also affected research going on around the world and contributing to the emigration of even well-learned scientists in the global north, especially the United States to other parts of the world like China. But I believe because the tides keep changing, you can have a government and he or she is not funding research, and another government comes and they amplify research and fly research work. So basically, what organizations are doing and what institutions are doing currently is seeing philanthropists who are funding, also getting funds outside the government to be able to do the research work. And another thing they are doing is laying scientific researchers, as I said earlier, some going to countries like China, who are willing to fund research, who have a government that is willing to amplify research. So basically, the United States, the global north has been doing an excellent work. The global south is doing an excellent work. But basically, in 2025, the global north and the global south, a big obstacle to research work globally is funding.
So, when we are talking about the global north and global south, I want you geographically to explain those distinctions for those people that may not be completely aware. Yes, in the United States, we have north, south, east, west, west coast, east coast, north, right. But when we're talking globally, what areas are we delineating as a global north and the global south?
Thank you so much for that. When we're talking about global north, global south, we're not talking about we're not talking about geographically the north, south, east, and west. What we're talking about is developed countries and the underdeveloped countries and mid and underdeveloped countries. So developed countries, we're talking about the United States, we're talking about Canada, we're talking about Germany, we're talking about Singapore. And underdeveloped and mid-developed countries, we're talking about sub-Saharan Africa, which consists of countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Togo. But basically, you're looking at the countries who are well advanced in research, well advanced in development, and who have the funding to be able to contribute to global advancement of whatever growth we have, and also in terms of GDP.
Yeah, beautiful. So it's not geographic, it's just in terms of advancement in science. So let's talk about shift really quickly. And the shift we were discussing prior in the United States right now, scientists are experiencing job losses. A lot of them are migrating, like you rightfully stated, and a lot of things, public health endeavors or public health science or just science in general is not being funded. So we have some countries that are funding and encouraging research and scientific advancement while America is going through whatever it's going through right now. Do you think that this will cause a shift? Granted, we talk about, administration changes, another leader comes and, leans into science while one doesn't as much. Do you think that in the time it'll take to kind of like go back to funding, that America will be playing catch up to countries like China, Germany, you name it? So do you think there'll be such a lag that it would be difficult to catch up to these other developed countries who are leading right into science and technology, including Nigeria? Because Nigeria has been identified as one of the fastest growing technological hubs.
Thank you so much for that. Actually, when you're talking about the growth in terms of research, whether US as a United States as a country will be able to catch up with the change of government, I'll put it in terms of maybe countries like Germany, China, call China, let me put it that way. Because China is doing advanced, and I don't like to compare countries in terms of advancement to some
Okay.
level, because everyone is patriotic to their country. Yes. And when you're talking about advancement, China is very, very advanced. It's one of the most advanced. Currently, what is one of the second to United States advanced country. So when the United States is faced with politics like this, when you have leaders who are not willing to increase funding in science, would stop or divert funding going to scientific research, you have other countries who are closely behind, like Singapore, China, India, Malaysia. A lot of Asian countries are catching up in terms of research to the United States. But I would say the fact that the government has reduced funding does not mean there is no level of funding coming from the government. And the government, aside the government, there are other relevant stakeholders also contributing to research in the United States. So even if the next government, after this government, the next 3 years or 4 years, we have another government, even though if it's the same party, we are open. Whoever comes is interested in research, has a different perspective on scientific research. But what I'm saying is, whoever comes, even if the person has the same perspective as those in power currently, there are some countries, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic, there are some countries, for example, Nigeria, that won't be able to catch up. Yes, Nigeria is fast growing, but there are some countries, because there are many things involved in research. Research is not just having the personnel, research is having the equipment. They are damn expensive. Aside the equipment, aside the machinery needed, aside the organisms needed, stable electricity is a fact. You can have the organisms, you can have the parts of the body, you can have whatever tissue, but if you don't have stable electricity, how are you going to keep them? Not just stable electricity. Some tissues are kept -4 degrees, -5 degrees, -20 degrees. How are you going to do it? Because you have many, and this is not as an insult, I'm stating facts. You have many labs in Nigeria that are not working. You will see some faculties, they don't even have a fridge. I would say, fortunately for me, I am married to a scientist, so who has had first-hand, because I didn't do my undergraduate in Nigeria, who had first-hand experience. And he compares experience many times with me, that many labs can't even afford distilled water. Now, distilled water is a norm in many labs across the United States. Distilled lab, they have to go to the air conditioner, and the water dripping from the air conditioner is what they get into 20 kilograms jerry can to be able to do lab work. So now that is distilled water. That is the smallest. If a lab cannot have functioning deep freezers or that can work at -20 whatsoever continuously for 6 months, You now say countries like the United States are going to catch up. Yes, might be facing some challenges now currently in terms of funding and political instability in the world of science, but it's going to take, I don't want to say miracle, but it's going to take almost a miracle for some countries in the global south, like Nigeria. And one thing is, Nigeria is one of the fast growing countries in the global south, in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, you not compare with somewhere like Cameroon. Somewhere like Cameroon is like comparing New York to Abuja. Let me put it that way. I'm not trying to insult Cameroonians, sincerely. Now, you can imagine if Nigeria is at that level. Can you imagine countries like Cameroon, Togo, Benin Republic? What is happening? You're not saying, yes, aside the government, we are not getting funding from the government currently, but we still have a large gap to fill in countries meeting up, catching up to the United States in terms of funding for research.
So I know you said you were not being pessimistic. I hear you. You said it would be a near miracle. The catching up, it's not, I don't think I had Nigeria in mind when I spoke about the catch up. I had the big players involved. So we're talking about other European country. We're talking about China specifically, who's been a big player in the field and a noted and respectful competitor in the field of healthcare research, science, and technology. So in a general sense, that is the concern. Like, if we're scaling back when we need to have a competitive edge, will we be playing catch up to these countries when we are back on track? Yes, research is still going on. Yes, things are still happening, in the whispers of science, I should call it. However, so many things have been affected, even scholarship for PhD programs, even scholarships for doctorate programs for medical students when it comes to population health. Those things are suffering. Another area that was really hit is the disease processes that mostly notably affected people of African or sub-Saharan African descent. Example of that is sickle cell. We do know that women are not studied enough in science. Most of what we do in medicine today was based on men. A lot of studies that affected women had a lot of funding cuts. So with all of this said, and we're still having a fetal mortality rate of fetal maternal mortality rate of 4-1 when it comes to Black women, that is the concern. We already, when we were being funded, we were still seeing a lot of these disparities. However, with the funding cuts, how far or how deep can this disparity go? And how much can we survive it? Yes, we are relying on philanthropical endeavors and contribution. And is appreciated, but on a scale of what it was, is a drop in a bucket to what it can be. Because when we talk about philanthropists, they don't just contribute to one cause, they have many causes, right? So I think that is the main concern. And what is your outlook on that, especially when it comes to disparities and inequities?
Okay, thank you so much. The question is a bit political because with the recent government, the impact they've had on, I say they because one person cannot make a decision and it goes. It has to go through some people, and they have been strides on diversity, equity, and inclusion, they rights and sort of it. I would say it's separated, but I would also say it's interconnected because there are different aspects that has to do with equity and inclusion, which is outside the field of science and health. But generally, I'd like to focus my discussion on the health sector, like in the field, basically the field of science. Since there is reduction, we know that when there is funding, that's when more research can be done. And that's when you mentioned that there have been mass reduction in graduate admissions. In fact, I've seen very, very excellent students like not being given doctoral degree, who normally would get doctoral degree admissions. They didn't get the admissions. When you see the situation happening from funding, when you have reduction in funding, you have reduction in taking in graduate students who further the research, you have reduction in doing more research on the health sector. You have reduction in funding more research as advancing research at institution level, at national level, at state level, and also at regional level. But thing is, with more funding from institutions that are not basically government, more researchers will be pushed. Let me put it that way. Because I said it's connected at the beginning and it's not connected. More researchers will be pushed to go for scientists who will help them save money. Because it's not just graduate students, even postdoctoral fellows are facing the bite. More supervisors, more professors pushed to the wall, whereby if you don't have like a permanent residency in the United States or you're not a citizen of the United States, they are not taking you in. Because why? It's more funding. Like currently the H-1B whatsoever that Donald Trump worked on, if you are bringing someone in, a new person in, they have to pay $100,000. Now, basically, I can tell you, there are many labs in the United States that are not to watch adults live in public. Basics in labs in the United States, aside many labs closing, the basics in labs, like very basic $1 items, you find people, because I have relations with people who work in labs. You find people trying to get basic things from one lab to another, like on their general WhatsApp group, please, who have these? I need these. Why? Because the supervisor cannot afford it. Because the supervisor is managing the funds. Because the supervisor is already overstretched. Many machines are getting spoiled. They can't replace them. They can't repair them. Both replacement, both repair can't happen. And this is something that before it could be done easily. So when we are in a situation like this, they will be forced, the supervisors or whoever is recruiting will be forced to go for people who have maybe the permanent residency or are citizens of the United States. Where does that leave immigrants? Because
But they're not
immigrants are
qualified.
basically who are majority of immigrants, who are majority of the scientists in the United States. You have immigration. It's both related and it's diversified. Like, it's not saying you should not take in immigrants. It's not saying you should not employ Asians. It's not saying you should not employ Africans. It's not saying you should not employ Europeans. You can fill your lab with Spanish guys and Spanish women, but will you be able to fund them? when you weigh, because when you see you are bringing in maybe 5 Spanish guys and each is $100,000. Someone last year who was already managing lab materials who can't even like do the basic things in the lab because there is no funding. Now you tell him to bring 5 people from Spain, $100,000, not minus salary, just to bring them in. That's $500,000. How much are the salaries of the professors themselves? How much annually are the salaries of the professors? Minus them being underfunded. There is no funding coming from government. They are writing grants and there is nothing coming in. So we are in a situation whereby we can't say there is equity. Actually, there was a gap on equity issues, but now in the recent political atmosphere, the gap is more widened. When I'm talking about equity and diversity issues, I'm not even talking about race this time around. I'm talking about women. You're a woman, you get pregnant, you want to go on maternity leave. A professor is managing the money in his lab. Then you now want to go on maternity leave, you want to work, he's going to pay you. You just have to go. I heard of a situation where someone was told to go on indefinite leave. I don't know what that means. And I laughed so much. What does indefinite leave mean? Please, just tell them to go and never come back. Tell them you can't pay, they should get another job. But what does indefinite leave? What does it mean? So these are the issues basically. The current political atmosphere is widening equity issues and it's affecting everyone. Not one gender, not one race, not one religion or socioeconomic level.
Yeah. So I would respectfully disagree with you, Dr. Fajimbola, because in healthcare, you cannot have one without the other. So it's not a political issue, it's not a race issue, it is an issue. All
Yes.
right. And for certain races, it's compounded. All right. So it is not something that we can divide, unfortunately. I don't know if you've ever heard of social determinants of health, that phrase being used. We also have political determinants of health. And unfortunately, certain races of people get affected more. I have been affected by racism in healthcare, and I work in healthcare. I'm a nursing professor. So you would think, oh, maybe if you're educated to a certain degree, then you have immunity. No, because the first thing anybody sees is my skin color before they get to know my name or they get to know my education or my abilities or my knowledge, right? So I don't think we can have one without the other. That is where I will respectfully disagree with you. Can be, whether you want to call it political or not, at the end of the day, human lives are being affected.
Exactly.
We see it on social media all the time where people are treated inhumane, even at a point of pregnancy or delivering a baby, which is a very sensitive time. And unfortunately, I want, like, as much as I wouldn't want to recognize with that, I have experienced that, and I know that experience is real and it is very demoralizing. So when we're talking about healthcare, when we're talking about access to health, especially with sickle cell, if somebody is in a sickle cell crisis, and we know sickle cell affects people of sub-Saharan Saharan African heritage, unless you have a direct experience with that disorder, which I have had, and you understand the pain that goes along with it, plus the racism in healthcare that goes along with it, because somebody in crisis is usually treated like a drug seeker. Unfortunately, the only thing that can numb that pain is narcotics. So when you're given Tylenol and shoot away like you're here being a druggie, moralizing. I know doctors and nurses with active sickle cell, full-blown sickle cell diagnosis, that when they're in crises, they refuse to go to the hospital because they refuse to be treated as addicts. So we can't have one without the other. Yes, it is affecting the job market, it is affecting immigration, but it's also affecting people needing everyday care. Fortunately, people are dying. Hospitals are shutting down. I think it was the state of Mississippi. In Mississippi, one of the southern states declared a state of emergency because you're talking about funding, you're talking about equipment, you're talking about personnel issues. They were not able to keep preemies alive anymore because of cuts to medical coverage. So we can't have one without the other. We don't get to shy away. It's like, oh, it's getting political. Well, it's getting uncomfortable and political. People are dying. What else can we do? Thank you for your insight on that. So when it comes to immigration, another thing, talking about competitors, the founder, for anybody listening, one of the first assignments as a founder is for you to identify your competitors. Why are you doing that? Because you want to have what your competitors do not have. You want to have that salient features that sets you apart. Time where labs are not able, or hospitals are not able to afford bringing in healthcare providers. You so rightfully stated that most scientists, most healthcare providers, and a lot of the science of life in America is really fueled by immigrants. When organizations are not able to fund personnel for research or for care into America, the other countries that are heavily funding immigration right now, I see it on a frequent basis. What does that mean for us scientists, healthcare providers, still in America, tugging it out, roughing it out, doing it for, humankind? And I've seen that exodus. I see people leaving. What do you think is going to happen? Because even people are afraid to actually speak out or go in for the fight, right? So what do you think is going to happen at the end of the day if there's no light at the end of this tunnel? Because right now it feels really dark.
I don't know the question. I didn't really get the question.
So the question is in relation to immigration. There's a mass exodus or there's an exodus, okay? Whether mass or not, there's an exodus of some sort. And also the competitors with the American science, the countries that have big science endeavors and investment are also monitoring, being America as a competitor, and seeing what is happening with the immigration. And they're offering immigration to talents and expertise. In the grand scheme of things, what do you think is going to happen with even Americans? Because I know some Americans that have, migrated to other countries, either for their scientific research or just to get out of the fear of things. Where does that leave us? Or people that have decided to stay and kind of, continue to do the best for humankind? Do you see more people leaving, or like Fela said, suffer and suffering and smiling? So do you
Okay,
think
thank you
that
so
is
much.
that is even feasible?
Okay, thank you so much. To begin with, yes, I'm a founder, and when I started my organization, because I'm someone who loves being unique, I love being positively different from every other person. And like you said, there's usually competition. And one of the things that happened when I started my organization was a journal replicating one of the things I was doing, and I had two options: either to sue or just to leave them. And it took me back to my intention of starting the organization, basically to advance and amplify scientific research through media. So basically, thinking about it to and fro, I just thought to leave them. And in my mind, I was like, anyone that wants to do the work, I'm doing, they're welcome to do the work I'm doing. And one thing with doing what you're doing is people think it's easy. Yeah. And you cannot have the resilience to do this for a long time. What I'm doing personally to do it for a long time, except it's something you love, except it's something you want to invest your time in, except it's something that interests you. Now, back to the question on countries competing with the United States in terms of human resources. Naturally, the United States is ahead. They are the torchbearer, and every year annually they keep increasing. Like there is a upward growth in scientific research in the United States. But with the current political atmosphere, what will happen is there will be a plateau till when there is a change. A change means negative. We are at this point we are complaining, but the next political atmosphere, or even the same person might make things worse. The same group of people might make things worse, and it dips. So currently, I would say we are not moving upwards. We are at plateau. At plateau, I mean we are moving on the straight line. We are not moving upwards. We are not moving downwards. Except there is an external force. We won't move in any direction. We'll keep moving at plateau. Surrounding countries for my school of thoughts, let me put it that way, what I believe is a lot of people, I'm not talking about immigrants now, I'm talking about US citizens themselves, born and bred here. A lot of researchers, let me put it that way, and a lot of US citizens, I feel this is time for you to experience other countries. Because I believe in more US citizens going to other countries, it helps in the betterment of the United States itself. To see what you're seeing in the media about other countries, if it's really true from your first-hand experience, to see the culture, to see the people, to see positive traits that you can get from other countries to the United States. I feel this is an opportunity for the United States citizens who are emigrating to. Now, I'm not talking about immigrants, because immigrants move across the world. Most immigrants who are even in the United States, they travel a lot. This is the time for United States citizens to move outside the United States more and integrate with other communities and integrate with other people across the world. And if the political atmosphere, if at all, changes anytime soon, and when they come back, they bring whatever expertise they've learned from across the world into the economy. And when they do this, although we've been at plateau, there'll be a spike because of the improved value, increase in value from those who had emigrated. Now, for we inside, there's a saying that when the going gets tough, the tough keeps going. I believe people who will remain in the United States, there will be a reason why they're in the United States. I won't take it as loyalty, or I won't take it as loyalty or patriotism. But I believe for anyone who has an option to go to other countries that has better political atmosphere and have better resources at this time and chooses to remain in the United States, I feel that is something making them stay. And they have interest in the growth of the United States. Because if you don't have, you will definitely be out to like better yourself. But if those that choose to remain here advise, they find ways to better themselves. And one of this why I feel can work is through communities, research communities, academic communities, even cultural communities, to help each other, to share ideas, to share resources, to rub minds together on the way forward. Outside the politics that is happening currently in the United States, I usually say that no individual can do it alone. Even if we have the best political atmosphere, no individual can do it alone, no group can do it alone, no community can do it alone. So now, looking at how we are, the government cannot do it alone. If the government is saying, I'm not funding, I'm not giving this particular institution like Harvard University, that there was politics and going on about them taking immigrant students and sort of is stopping of funding. If the government says, okay, I'm not giving funding to this institution, this is the time for us to work together, for the wealthy among us to help the middle and the poor among us. This is the time for the strong among us to help the weak among us. This is the time for the knowledgeable among us to help the not knowledgeable among us. So this is the time for collaboration. There is no time ever I feel the US needs more collaboration than we are currently, where states can help each other, where we can help each other at all levels and even cross-generational. We have the Gen Zs, we have the middle age, we have the old age. This is the time for us to share ideas and come together at town hall meetings to talk on way to advance. I feel the power is with the people. The people power outweighs the power of the government, even though the power of the government is the highest in the country.
Yeah.
So I believe if you're in, make it work. If you're out, make it work. And if at all the political atmosphere changes someday, if those out want to come in, it's a plus to us. If those in want to go out, there will always be exchanges. That's why we have immigration and emigration. There will always be exchanges, and exchanges are welcome. As some people are coming in to add value, some people, the value they've gotten from here, they're going to add to somewhere else. So it's a bit of give and take.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. More than ever, we need each other. Today is a day of talk. I'm just thinking of an also, my people, we need each other. We need each other. It's like an Nigerian so also. But I couldn't agree more. We need one another. We need the support. When you're talking about PhD programs, not admitting students that are qualified. I've had direct experience with that, and I've seen that happen in real time. And it's not easy to defy something that is not is not well inclusive. However, when an organization you mentioned like Harvard of such stature, Harvard has been, has existed for a long time. And I think it's time for us to kind of like look at one another and lock elbows. Nobody's coming to save us, unfortunately or unfortunately, because I think in situations like this, we realize our resilience, we realize our resourcefulness, and we realize how much we have to offer, because it calls for you to be strong. It calls for you to show up. All those communities, as a founder myself, I've leaned into community like I've never leaned into community before. And I have reaped the benefit from being in community with people. People genuinely want to help, but you have to get out of your own way to open up and be available to help and also help somebody else. So I'm completely in agreement with that. So it's been a beautiful conversation so far. Before Dr. Fajembola came into existence, I want to go back to the young Azeezat. What was it that interested you in science enough for you to say, you know what, as opposed to doing anything else, this is what I want to do because I'm passionate about it? And the reason I know you're passionate about it is that you mentioned a study and something that you were working on, and somebody took that ideation and ran with it. And you're like, okay, do I fight this and exhaust myself, or do I let you run with it knowing that you run out of steam because you don't have the passion that I have? So that passion, where was it planted? Who nurtured it? And why have you kept that fire burning today?
Okay, thank you so much. I don't know if I've said this live to anyone before. My grandparents, my paternal grandparents worked in the hospital, and I grew up, I lost my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, before I was born. So I grew up hearing my dad talk about his mother. And yeah, I read the book he wrote on his mother, and that's where I started at first, I guess. Because looking back, in recent years, I've looked back, like, where did this passion start? You understand? I guess that was where it first started. Okay, this woman my dad loved so much, my grandmother. Then read about her, let me know about her, and I guess it planted something in my heart. Then growing up, if I'm sick and I was taken to the hospital, I would just get well, and it was just like magic. The hospital was like my safe place. And when I go to the hospital, my mom would say, "You are fine. You can't be fine." And after taking the injection, my mom usually discuss the symptom with them, and they're like, okay, but she looks fine now, but you are claiming she had these symptoms. And I will ask the doctor, which doctor are you? Be like, I'm a medical doctor. Just medicine is medicine you studied, because I wanted to just be in that environment that made me feel alive. And I would read medical terminologies. Going to the hospital, I would medical. I had interest in medicine. I don't know if I was academically excellent, but growing up, the street I grew up, without telling anybody, I wanted to be a medical doctor. Because I don't know why, the street I grew up, everyone there called me doctor. My name was not Azeezat. Basically, my name from childhood was doctor. That was my name. And in my mind, I'm like, what if I don't get into medicine with all this doctor? Have you seen doctor? Doctor. What if I don't get into medicine? But growing up, you see how destiny works from my paternal grandma to my first-hand experiences, seeing the hospital as a safe space and learning about medical terminologies. I grew up being someone who loved to alleviate the pain of others. That's where Dr. Preach, my nickname, started. Doctor for pain, redness, irritability, basically the science of pain inflammation. So basically, I grew up to be someone who wants to alleviate the pain of others, who want others to be in a better space, like improve the well-being of others. And it really helped me pursue medicine and become a medical doctor. So basically, that has been my journey through medicine, and I've had an interesting journey. I tell people I don't see myself doing something else. If I ever did accounting, I guess I would be a dropout. If I ever did arts, I would be a dropout. If I did nursing, I guess I would succeed because I just want to be in the hospital space.
Right.
But if I see myself doing anything outside science class, I guess I will have just fumbled. So what helped me, even on the days where it was very hard in medical school, what held me together was, this is what I wanted to do. This is what I have passion. And I'm glad God aided me through it.
Oh my goodness. I love origin stories because they're so unique. And sometimes it's a calling that you can't run away from. And that is the one thing about our people that I really absolutely love is that we have a habit of professing things. There's some dark people too. But we have a way of professing things and manifesting things for little children, whether it's a nickname or whether it's your name, your given name. Everything around us is like a prophecy. And when you get there, you're like, okay, I have to see this through because you know what? Everybody's looking at me and everybody wants me to succeed. So thank you for sharing that with us. So Dr. Fajembola, because I am a sucker for knowledge and I always like to, get like every bit that I can. Usually I ask my guests at the end of a conversation to share a golden nugget or a few golden nuggets to our listening audience. So for people that have listened to our conversation today, whether we're talking about scientific research, where we are, where we're going, how we need one another, and also your origin story. What are the things that you would like to leave our listeners with? So whether it's a young girl who's reading about her grandmother or watching her grandparents or her parents, or just being given a nickname that she feels she has to fulfill, or somebody that is actively in the trenches of things right now in science and research.
Okay, thank you so much. I was expecting to get some questions on my organization.
Don't you worry. We'll talk about your organization. Don't you worry.
But I'll bring that in because it's research-based. Okay. What I will leave for our audience today is science keeps evolving. The government cannot do it alone. It's time for you and I to come on board if you're interested to invest in science, to make sure whatever the scientists are doing, the scientists will feel supported. And whatever they are doing, make sure your family understands what they're doing. Your community understands what they're doing. The children understand what they're doing. Because it's partial, and put it as that, it's partial waste of time for scientists for the government or whoever to fund research, organizations to fund research. And they publish this research and they are just the ones circulating the research, like circulating within colleagues. And it's not the world, global citizens, who are majority, don't even understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So when you see people like me, or when you see people like anyone starting any organization or any venture to amplify research, what should you do? Help them in any form you can. Because it's not just for you, but for the future generation of humans. Whatever affects, I usually say whatever affects someone in India is affecting anyone in Nigeria. We are not in the world is more interconnected than it was 50, 100 years ago.
Absolutely.
So whatever positive thing you can do, it comes back to you first before it goes to the rest of the world. So wherever you see the advancement of research, we're talking about advancement of research, a lot is needed aside funding. A lot of support is needed aside funding. Encourage the younger generation to go into the field of science, especially those in the global south countries. Encourage them to go into the field of science. A lot is to be done in the field of science, especially in the global south. We see situations where researchers from global north are going to global south to get some leaves, to do some research, why even our forefathers know the benefits of these leaves or plants. We should be the founders of new drugs, new patents from Africa to the world. The global north shouldn't be the ones going to the global south to get what our forefathers already knew and naming it after them. So please, wherever you see anything on science, anything on research, whatever you can support, encourage the younger generation, discuss, fund, whatever you can do. Please support the strides of science. If you cannot be a torchbearer, be an active follower. That's what I'll leave you with. If you cannot be a torchbearer, be an active follower. Tell your neighbor, if you cannot be a torchbearer, be an active follower. If you cannot be a torchbearer, be an active follower. We cannot be, all of us cannot be US. Be an active follower.
I love it. Oh my goodness, I love it. Be an active follower. That's it. Dr. Fajembola, please tell us about your organization. You're doing incredible things when it comes to research and awareness. Please tell us what you're working on when it comes to research and the knowledge to the general public. Okay, thank you so much. Let me quickly give an overview to our audience. I'm the founder of Fajembola International Science and Technology. This is an organization focused on amplifying research globally, and most especially we are focusing on the global south. Why? Because compared to the global north, there is reduced. Compared to the global north, I mean the most developed countries across the world, the global south, which are the least developed countries across the world, they have little research, and it's seen in the way we live our lives. Most especially what we are focused on is simplifying this research through discussions. We are on YouTube and podcast platforms. What we are focused on is if Professor Obeya, if she publishes a research today, can a Gen Z in Ghana, a Gen Z in Togo, a Gen Z in Brazil, can they understand what she published? So basically, that is what my organization is doing, simplifying, make sure you can understand, you can feel what is happening in the world of research, and you can know basically how it affects you. There are many discussions we have and we are going to have. There's a lot of research being done. We cannot even tackle it because there are 52 weeks in a year, and we can only do few of them. We focus on topics from hepatitis to HIV to hand washing, a lot of things just around the world of science. Basically, to make sure you understand what you are doing in terms of health, from what you put into your mouth to what goes on in your body, to what you put on your skin, to what you inhale, to what you see in your environment. We want better well-being for you, and this is how we can bring growth and positivity. We can contribute to the advancement of science. So please, wherever we are on YouTube, The First Ecosystem. We are on podcast, Dr. Fajembola's Opinion. Just check anywhere Dr. Fajembola's Opinion is a program under the first Fajembola in National Science and Technology, which is The First Ecosystem. And basically, this is what we are doing. Amplifying research from the global south. We're optimistic when we get more funding. We'll collaborate with more academic institutions to make sure there is more inflow of research, especially from the global south. That's what we are working on. So thank you so much. I absolutely live for it because it's easy for us academics to say, hey, there's a research, we understand it, let's study it. I published, and we keep getting promotions. Basically, let me review their secrets. What most of these academicians do, they keep releasing publications and they keep getting promotions. They keep advancing their career. But you, in the village there, you don't know what they are publishing. You don't know what's happening. Them, they are growing and they are living their life. You don't know how it affects you. So we are your people. Science and technology, we are your people. We are the ones making sure you can understand what is happening. And you can talk to your governments. You can contribute to any health discussions globally. Absolutely. Yeah. It is great to be recognized for your research and your publication. However, how is it translating to the everyday lives of people that are affected by it? So, Dr. Fajembola, you're doing such a great job. And for
Thank you.
anybody who's wondering if you didn't catch everything, that's fine. We'll make sure it's all in the show notes. So you will have a link to everything Dr. Fajembola related. So you can go and check out what she's working on. It's incredible. You can support her if you're an organization, you're a philanthropist, you have grants that you do give to scientific causes, please reach out and support her. Or even if you're not a philanthropist or you're a philanthropist in your own right, I should say, nothing is too small. Donate, support. If you cannot be the torchbearer, be an active follower. She said that.
Exactly.
Dr. Fajembola, it was so great to have you on. It was wonderful to have this conversation. You are a brilliant woman, and your
Thank you.
knowledge and your work is so commendable. Keep going. I am your active follower.
We are all torch bearers.
I'm very touch and following, okay? I can do both. So it was so incredible to have you here and have this conversation is much needed. And I feel like this conversation's it's going to keep happening. It's going to keep happening, and we're going to keep having to amplify the voices that we have. So I am very grateful for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and have a blessed week.
Thank you, you too. Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for tuning in to Unshelling Medicine Podcast. If you want to stay up to date with the latest episodes, make sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave us a review. Follow us on social media at Altruistic Scribe on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We share additional tips, updates, and health-related content that you won't want to miss. Have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes? Reach out to us at altruisticscribeco.com. We're always eager to hear from our listeners and tackle the health topics that matter most to you. Until next time, stay healthy and take care.